great, amazing, smart, huge. These are just some of the few words Donald Trump knows, but they are also the words he frequently uses to describe him, his hands, and his campaign. But as aware of the Donald as the American public may be, he still has a rich history he rarely reveals on television. So, without further delay, let us explore the past of perhaps one of the orangest Americans ever to exist. His story begins humbly in the state of New York during the summer of 1946. It was a simpler time. The Nazis had been defeated, FDR learned to take a stroke off his game, leaving Truman in charge, and the world met the son of Christ. Frederick Christ Trump, that is. And from that day on, Donald never let the world forget it. He had what you would call a fairly standard childhood, if you call only having 2 personal maids and 1 family yacht standard. Sadly though, young Donald was actually bullied in his penthouse preschool for being in the bottom quarter of the top 0.1%. Thus, it was during his formative years that he developed both his thick skin and his ability to ignore even the most basic of facts. Yes, Trump honed this skill as if it were a deadly weapon until the only fact he concerned himself with were benefactors. His first real test came when he applied for military school. The Donald insisted he knew every word of the Pledge of Allegiance in 3 languages despite never actually reciting it for them. So why was Trump accepted without question? Perhaps it was because they were so impressed with his resilience. Maybe they were too lazy to call his bluff. Or there is a small, tiny, relatively insignificant chance it's because his father agreed to finance a new wing of the school. Who really can say for sure? After his formal schooling, Trump's father helped him get a foothold in the business world by giving him a small loan of $1 million. Donald was dumbfounded, however. How was he supposed to make it in the world on just 1 month's allowance? So he made sure to spend the money wisely. His first expense was experimental osteogenesis of the hands and fingers. Much to his chagrin, however, the procedure backfired and ended up shrinking his hands instead. Distraught, Trump sought to rekindle some form of happiness by spending $70,000 to co-produce the 1970 Broadway comedy Paris is Out, as it was the city in which he lost his virginity. Ironically though, much like that night, the show flopped after a promising start, and Trump turned all of his focus towards business. In Manhattan, he launched what would end up being several very successful architecture and building projects, eventually expanding operations to the surrounding New York areas. Trump, it looked like, was well on his way to building his empire. However, he hit a significant bump in the road when the evil entity known as the U.S. Justice Department accused the Donald of violating the Fair Housing Act. Despite this snag, Trump did what he does best: stared down the facts like it was a charging rhinoceros on the Serengeti. In the end, Trump settled with the rhino without outright admitting any guilt. Still, it was a blow to his character, and that led to more bad business decisions in the following years, resulting in several ventures tanking. The Donald seemed doomed to continue this trend until one fateful June afternoon in 1987. Feeling down, Trump decided to take in a comedy movie. He chose Spaceballs, the Mel Brooks movie now famous for satirizing the space epic genres of the time. But it was one scene in particular that would change his life forever. Late in the film, our heroes meet a wise old man who informs them of the genius of merchandising.
Spaceballs the coloring book, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the breakfast cereal, Spaceballs the flamethrower!
The Donald was then struck with inspiration as he bolted out of the theater, later buying and renaming it the Trump Theater. From then on, he put his name on everything. Trump Airlines, casinos, steaks, shoes, schools, board games, you name it. Yes, it was hard for Trump to take a crap without then thinking about branding and marketing it as Trump Turd Miracle Manure. Trademark. It was a truly revolutionary strategy for the Donald, as it catapulted him right into the mainstream of the business world. It came at a cost, however, as man and brand became near indistinguishable. Like a parasite, the Trump name leached life from the Donald, thinning his hair and oranging his skin, in exchange for its value growing to a staggering $2 billion. Having seemingly conquered the business world, he set his sights on entertainment. The Donald established pageants in which women would be judged based on their personality and intelligence, and nothing else. He also started his own reality show where people would actually apply for the privilege of being fired by Mr. Trump.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
These feats led to national name recognition within the public sector for Donald and his brand. Little did anyone know of his master plan, for in the summer of 2015, Donald sprung his trap.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
He used his national name recognition and wealth to catapult himself to the front of the GOP race for president, a lead which he never relinquished. Thus ends this absurd history of Donald Trump. Where will he go from here? Well, if Donald has anything to say about it, his future will undeniably be huge. Whether that means in victory or defeat, no one can currently say. This has been an absurd history. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Goodbye.